Hello, and Rock of the Morn, 3rd Infantry Division. I am Sergeant Reva Catholic, filling in for Sergeant Nunez, and joining me today is Lieutenant Colonel James Watts, who is the division surgeon. So today we're here just to discuss updates on COVID-19. Any new information to put out to you all? We want to make sure that we keep you all informed. So with that being said, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great, and Rock of the Marn to all of our listeners.
So what updates are there, if any, to provide to the public?
So, this is a very fast-moving topic, and the few things that I would say as far as updates, we do have some cases on post. We've had some confirmed COVID-19 cases on post. That was very well managed, to be honest with you, with all the units. Awesome. And installation assets on post. Every single individual that was a confirmed case was quickly isolated, and their contacts were quarantined. And I would definitely give us an A+ with respect to stopping the spread, because right now we have no evidence of any community transmission, which means for everybody that we really have no person that has spread the virus to a bunch of different people on post.
Okay, so it's more isolated?
Completely isolated. And I think when we talk about this mission that we're all on together as an installation, we can define that as an incredible victory, honestly. So we can't really 100% control the isolated cases that come into post. Those are going to happen. What we can control is how we isolate those cases and quarantine the people around those isolated cases so that we can stop the spread. So I think A+ in performance of that, and it's really, honestly, hats off to all the units and the unit level leadership. I said this in the last podcast. This victory is going to be won and lost based upon really the first line level leader.
Absolutely.
Because they're the people that have that in-depth personal knowledge of the soldier or each other, so that they're going to get the first indicator that there might be a problem. And then if they know the steps to act, to do two things. One, get the person the care that they need to take care of the soldier that has the virus. And two, stop the spread by notifying the chain of command and quarantining the surrounding individuals.
All that were in contact.
That were all in contact quickly. Right. So, and then really, and that all really has to happen in a matter of hours. Right. So it's really at that level where victory is won or lost. So I would definitely say A+ there, because we could not have isolated all those individuals as quickly as we did without that happening. So that's the biggest development with respect to what's going on post. So
I noticed that they have like washing stations at the PX, at the commissary. Even when you come into the building, it's required for people to use hand sanitizer. What do you think? Do you think that is an effective method of stopping the spread so far as division is concerned?
I actually think that's a great method. I did it this weekend. First time I've gone to the commissary in about 2 or 3 weeks. So I went through the commissary, and I think they have a great setup where what you're doing is you're decontaminating your hands, right? Because that's how this thing is going to spread. Primarily is on somebody's hands. You're decontaminating your hands. You're going into a environment like the commissary where several people are touching different things, right? and we can't help ourselves, right? I mean, I went down the cereal aisle and I picked up 10 boxes of cereal. I looked at it, I put it down, and unfortunately, the virus stays alive on inanimate objects for quite some time, right? And so after I did that, I said, okay, gosh, now my hands are contaminated. So I kept telling myself, don't touch your face, don't touch your face, don't touch your face, right? And then basically I took out my own hand sanitizer and said, okay, I touched something. Let me sanitize my hands. And then I moved on, right? And then at the end of the commissary experience, I said, okay, I went to a place where there's a lot of people touching a lot of different things, so there's a lot of risk. Let me sanitize my hands after I clear the commissary.
So after you leave the commissary?
Absolutely. Yep. I was like, okay, now I'm back to, hey, the only stuff on myself is my stuff. Right? And that's the way you have to think about it is, hey, what have I touched to get somebody else's stuff on me, and then am I going to touch my face to transmit? And if you can, as a person, as you can work yourself out of that habit and into that mindset, it's going to be
touching your face,
of not touching your face, and then constantly washing your hands or sanitizing your hands. It's challenging, and I'll tell you, I've been practicing medicine for almost 20 years now, right? And physicians, nurses, medics, all healthcare providers, we're really in tune to washing our hands, right? Because it's part of our professional culture to wash our hands continuously when we're seeing patients. Right. So it's very much second nature to me to constantly wash my hands. Right. I totally understand that it might not be second nature to somebody.
Definitely
to have it in their mindset, like, oh, when's the last time I washed my hands? Better do it again. When's the last time I washed my hands? Better do it again. So I think that's a very important habit for everybody to start to get comfortable with, and that's going to be way more effective than any other single intervention that we do, because it's on an individual protective level. Right. And it's cheap, it's easy, but it's hard to do because it's habit formation.
So speaking about, stopping the spread, there's a lot of myths out there in terms of the virus itself and how it can survive. I saw the other day that it can't survive in hot and humid weather. So can you kind of dispel some of the myths that are out there in regards to the virus?
Sure. No, I love to do that, actually. I love Mythbusters. I used to watch that show all the time. So let's start with the first myth, right? The myth that I've heard, and I'll confirm that myth's out there with you, is, okay, so the virus can't survive in the heat. Right. And so that's a very exciting myth for us here in
Georgia.
Southern Georgia.
Right.
Because we're getting to the point in the seasonal cycle of it's going to get hot.
It's going to get super hot.
Yes. Right, yeah. And so unfortunately, there is some truth to that myth, but it's not completely true. So let's break it down.
Yes.
Usually where that myth came from is usually respiratory droplet-based viruses like COVID-19 generally go into hibernation, for lack of a better word, around the summer months. And that's because of several different things. The two things that are most prominent that I've seen in the medical literature is, one, school gets out. Right. So during the summer, school gets out, so there's not a lot of social mixing in schools. Viruses are less apt to spread. So that's one thing. It really doesn't have to do with the heat, but it's associated with the summer, right? And so people like to make a tie of, when it gets hot, the virus goes to ground.
Yeah.
And right, so that's important. The second thing, there's a little bit more science to the weather with respect to the heat and transmission. And what that comes down to is since this is droplet based, the more humid the air is and the hotter the air is, the less effective droplets can move through the air.
What do you mean by droplets? Like if I were to like cough, like the spread of that cough, or how far it would travel, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. No, that's it, right? And the best visual, and I'm sure there's a YouTube video on this. The best visual is when you sneeze, right? That's like an automatic weapon on burst.
Oh, goodness.
Full of droplets, right? And those are COVID bullets.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so it's really projectiles like that. And then when you think about it scientifically, if you change the conditions of the atmosphere by adding humidity, changing the temperature, those projectiles are going to have different distances that they can effectively travel before they, crash into the earth and not on your face.
Okay.
Right? So the worst thing I could do to you is if I had COVID-19, if I sneezed in your face and put that automatic weapon, my mouth and nose on burst straight to your face at close interval, there's a pretty high chance that you're going to get COVID-19, right? But if I distance myself, right, 6 feet, and I change the environmental conditions by either putting a physical barrier to catch the projectiles, or change the actual environment, going back to the heat discussion, the projectiles are going to be less effective at making it to your face.
Okay.
And so that's where the little bit of truth
in the
myth is, right? So that's a good one. What else you got?
I heard that it doesn't survive in cold weather.
Right. So again, I haven't read too much on cold weather, but that's a good one. I'm gonna take that back and see what the effect of the ambient. In science, we say the ambient conditions of the environment. So we have to be very, very careful about what I call pseudoscience. Right. Pseudoscience is stuff that you read from people that are very
like prominent people?
Yeah, so they're experts in their field.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And they have different theories about things. And if you take those theories out of context or basically make those theories more and more factual, you could get into trouble with respect to your facts and assumptions. I mean, it's really just like mission analysis. Right? Their facts are facts and assumptions are assumptions, and you really need to be very aggressive with confirming assumptions into facts using very stringent criteria. And you just have to really be careful of your source of information. And so for example, in this podcast, we want to be as very factual as absolutely possible, so that we can again debunk rumors, debunk myths, and explain and help people understand the situation, because by doing that we're going to reduce fear. Right. And that's an important objective when fighting this. Sure, we have to stop the spread. Very important objective.
Absolutely.
Sure, we have to take care of individuals that are infected with COVID-19. Yep, very important objective. But just as important is ensuring that fear is not dispelled, but fear is quelled, right? So that we can make sure that we can do this psychologically in the long haul, right? Because who wants to live their life scared for the next 2 weeks, 2 months, for however long this goes? We have to get to a point where we're comfortable as people with coexisting with COVID-19.
Right. I would say like the main fear for me personally is the unknown.
Sure.
I don't know, where this virus came from or why it or how it reached here. I mean, it's so many unknown factors and it's uncertainty that I feel like people may use to feed that fear. So for people to be informed would definitely, help that fear subside a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, and I think that that's where I would turn to our audience, and we really need to get a dialogue going about what the questions are out there. We have we have hyper connectivity amongst all of us.
Absolutely.
All of us are on a social media platform in some form or fashion. I'm on the old man social media platform, Facebook, and I'm trying to get into Instagram and Snapchat and some of the newer, cooler ones. Yeah, but we don't know what questions to answer until the questions are posed.
Right.
And so that's where I would ask the audience to start posing the questions, and we will start delivering the answers. If I do nothing else here in the 3rd Infantry Division, if I could do that, I think that would, for everybody, that would be a lot.
Absolutely.
And time well spent. If I, spent, 2 or 3 hours a day just fielding questions, I think that would hopefully contribute a lot to the fight. But I need to know what the questions are.
Right.
And so I think that's what I would definitely ask of the greater audience.
So with that being said, is there anything that you would like to add? Anything that you would like the audience to know or take away from this discussion?
Well, other than what's already been said, I think that there's one. Fighting this fight gets to the core of what it means to be a good soldier, right? When I think about this, and what does it mean to be a good soldier? One of our core foundational principles is to take care of each other.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? That is the secret sauce that makes the U.S. Army the potent and lethal fighting force that it is. That's the secret sauce. It's not the orders, the uniforms, the weaponry. It's the people taking care of the people to their left and to their right in whatever situation that we find ourselves in as an organization, whether it's in a large ground combat operation where we're dug in and it's me and you and we're trying to figure this out, or if it's back here in garrison fighting COVID-19, or if it's out having a good time and making sure that we're not drinking too much or getting behind the wheel, or when we're tired or had too much to drink, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
The secret sauce is taking care of your buddy on your left and your right, and we have to stay true to that principle. And whatever it takes to get to where each individual can do that easily and quickly, we're going to be okay. And so I'm confident that we're going to be okay, because the U.S. Army has been doing this since its inception, and we practice it every day. And so I'm not worried about that. What I am worried about is are we using all of the venues available to us to get the information and the skill set and the training, just like any other task or any other mission, down to the absolute rubber meets the road ground level.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Watts, for joining us. For more information, you can go to the Fort Stewart Hunter Army Airfield Facebook page, as well as the 3rd Infantry Division Facebook page. And if you haven't already, please download the Fort Stewart app. On that app, there is an icon that says COVID-19. You can click on that icon for more information.